There's probably not a more important moment in the sales process than when it comes to the close. I certainly know from my experience working with salespeople and with their sales leaders that it's one of the most valued skills in the sales process. Every sales leader wants a team filled with people who know how to close. And so I often think of this quotation: if it is to be, then it's up to me. And that's the focus of this particular microcast. I'm James Cumming from JC White & Co. Let's get started. Often when I'm reflecting on the sales process, I'm thinking about what are those things that are where I have less control? What are the things where I have more control? And how do I transition away from those things where I have less control and get more experience with those things where I have more control? And here's the thing. I think closing is one of those things. So what I want to do today is talk you through 4 different types of closing techniques. All can be used in different moments, in different ways, and it all depends a little bit on the relationship with your customer. Let me introduce you to them. First up, I'm going to introduce you to the one we call the recommendation. This is you giving your advice and advising the customer on what to do. We're going to talk about urgency. So how do you make it worthwhile for people to speed up? We're going to talk about options, where we give people choice, and then the good old classic assumptive close to conclude this particular microcast. Let's start with the recommendation close. This is really based around giving your customer advice about what to do next. So it comes with some provisos, yeah? And the proviso is it's really built a lot on your experience. You need to know what most people do. You need to know that what most people have done has been successful, and you need to be able to compel your customer to do that. So what does it rely on? It relies on quite high levels of trust and rapport between you and the customer. So you'd only use this if you thought you had those. Anyone who uses this without that might come across as a little arrogant, a little out of touch. So if you think you've got good trust and rapport with the customer, maybe the recommendation is the way to go. And if it is, here's a couple of examples of what it might sound like. So you can see the language you're using in the first one here, what I suggest we do next. So it's just a suggestion. It's about offering the customer a chance to discuss the implementation plan. It's not demanding anything. It's not telling them what to do. It's saying what I suggest. So if the rapport is good, the use of the word suggestion kind of edges things towards the close. The second example really relies on you being able to say, well, based on what you've told me so far. So if you've had a good quality conversation with the customer, then you can say, here's my advice. And we use the word advice, yeah, about where they should go, what they should do next. So the language here is important. We're suggesting what to do next. We're advising what to do next. We're recommending. So that's the recommending close. And urgency, all about creating a vibe for the customer that says, you know what, moving quickly is a really good thing for us to do. So you need to build the case. You need to show the benefits of moving faster. You might also couple that with showing the risks of moving slowly. Of course, all of this is linked to the customer's situation. If they're not in a hurry, if there's no benefit to them to move faster, this one won't work for you. But if there is, and you can illustrate it, it creates this sense of saying, you know what, let's keep this thing moving. There are advantages for you to pick up the pace. Here's a couple of examples. This one particularly relates to cost saving. That's showing the benefit of saying, if we can get this done today, you lock in your pricing. So we're showing the advantages from a financial point of view of an early or a quick decision. And here's the second example. This is the one where we're saying, you know what, there's a risk to delaying your decision. And therefore, here's what will happen if you make a decision today. So 2 examples of urgency. This idea of urgency or scarcity is something we've all experienced as consumers. There's an offer that's only valid for 14 days, or there's a deal that'll close on the 30th of June, or there's only 5 available and you've got to get in quickly. It's a very, very profound kind of way of driving us towards a decision. So that's urgency as a sales closing technique. Now let's go to options. I love options. I like this idea that we're presenting alternatives to the customer and letting them decide. So it gives your customer the power of choice. But you create the boundaries of those choices. You're saying you can have A or B, or A, B or C. You've created the boundaries that they can work in. And any one of those choices you'd be happy with. But the power of the choice goes with the customer. Now here's what's important. You need a customer who's ready to choose one of A or B, or A, B or C. If they're not quite ready, then you might go too early. Don't offer any more than 2 or 3. You might make it more confusing than making it easier. Sometimes a simple choice of A or B will be enough. That's options. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. The first example, do you think you'd like to start with a diamond or a platinum? Simple A-B choice. Love that one. And then there's one around an installation date. This date or that date. So it's so simple. This is just simple options. Choose one or the other. What if the customer doesn't choose any of them? Well, then clearly we've hit a sales objection, which is something we can then use our breathe BTA method to resolve. But what the option might get you is a choice to go forward. If it doesn't, it gets you an objection, and that's good news as well. Here's the final one from our list, the old-fashioned assumptive close. So what does that mean? This means that we're kind of assuming the customer's going ahead. So what's it based on? It's based on getting enough signs that the customer is indicating throughout the process that this is going to happen. You've got to read the signs carefully though, and I'll tell you why. We are conditioned to listen out for the things that might tell us what we want to hear. So you might overhear things that are really positive. You might underhear things that are more negative. So make sure you're reading the signs carefully. And if you try the assumptive close and it doesn't work, be ready to retreat quickly. Go back to the stage where you were at your most confident and restart the process from there. Here's a couple of examples of the assumptive close. This one just says all that's left to do now is to book in a start date. Yeah. So it says this is what we're doing next. I'm not asking for the order. I'm just going to keep you working through the process. And example number 2 is to just assume we're going ahead, so let's just get your financials done by getting your credit card details. Again, what we've shown in a lot of our microcasts here from JC White & Co. is great technique coupled with resourceful mindsets. The powerful mindset you've got to keep is, if it's going to be, then it's up to me. Yeah, this is something you need to do. So there are 4 techniques we've given you to get that to happen. I can't think of a single situation where one of those techniques wouldn't at least progress you further in the sale, or indeed draw out an objection that you can then handle. So, good luck using them.